Welcome to this session. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Samhita. I'm a part of the marketing team here at NSRCEL. And I'm just going to give you a brief introduction. For those of you who aren't very familiar with what we do, I'll just walk you through a little bit about NSRCEL. And then my colleague Konen will walk you through a particular program that might be of interest to you today before we get started with the session. Without further ado, right. NSRCEL has been around for close to 23, 24 years now. We began in the year 1999-2000. As the name suggests, it's actually Nadathu Srinivas Raghavan, NSR, Center for Entrepreneurial Learning. We were set up with a grant from one of the co-founders of Infosys, Mr. Nadathu Srinivas Raghavan, and we were set up with close to a $2 billion grant back in the year 2000, right? And he really thought that the place here at IMB was going to be quite important for folks, in the startup ecosystem, for anyone seeking to begin their entrepreneurial journey, who had no idea of where to begin or how to go, or anyone who faced challenges in their entrepreneurial journey. They needed a place wherein they could seek guidance from. And so he thought of setting up a startup incubator back in the year 2000, before startups was even a buzzword. We are one of the 10 centers of excellence of IIM Bangalore. We are the Entrepreneurship Innovation Center, and our mission is to catalyze the entrepreneurship system, because we exist in such a unique position wherein we have access to academia as well as industry. We really aim to serve as a bridge between the two. And so our vision is drawn from that, wherein we aim to also foster fundamental research in the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. We run 14 different programs in a calendar year, looking at various segments and sectors. And you can find out more about each of these programs on our website. But Konen, my colleague, will just tell you about one of those programs that might be of interest, because you all are interested in the EV industry anyway. Konen, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. So to begin about the program, so NSRCEL in partnership with Alstom India has launched the Sustainability Incubation Program. We're currently doing our cohort 2. Our cohort 1 was last year. So through this program, we foster ventures that spearhead tech-based innovations that cater to climate-centric solutions or any sustainability solutions. The sectors we mainly focus are on the screen. These include green manufacturing, mobility infrastructure, energy and renewable energy, climate tech and alternative fuel, also EV infrastructure, battery management, and many such sectors. For more information of these, you can just log in, just scan the QR code that is present on the screen. Am I audible?
Konen, you're audible, but it's a little unclear. So maybe you could speak up a little bit.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, so as I was saying, these are few of the sectors that we focus on. Before I don't want to talk about the key takeaways from the program. I'd let Ashish do that. Ashish is the founder of Green Tiger, and he's also our alumni of our cohort 1. He comes with a wide experience of business development, banking, scaling businesses. He's been a part of 2 businesses previously in India and globally. So, what Green Tiger does is it offers green and affordable mobility through its dual power two wheelers. They also have a experience center. I think they have about 4 experience centers in Bangalore, with one which recently opened in Electronic City. Just giving like a small introduction on the other panelists that we have here. Martin is the business head for Mycelio Mobility. Mycelio Mobility is an organization that has been at the forefront of building a robust ecosystem for clean mobility in India. So, speaking about Kasturi Gomatham, she is the global head of battery swapping at Shell. She is also a consultant for social entrepreneurs at Bridges Enterprises. Her previous experiences has been in PwC, Mercedes-Benz, Ola, and many such corporates. Throughout her journey, she's been working in the mobility sector itself, in the mobility domain, from being a research engineer. She's also worked and building the first three-wheeler for India, which is an EV vehicle. And now she's also into consulting and a global head at Shell. So over to you, Ashish. If I've missed out any introductions in the speakers, please feel free to pitch in. And Ashish, please let people know about the Sustainability Incubation Program and the key takeaways.
Thanks, Kunal. I hope I'm audible. Uh,
Yes.
Great to be a part of the panel with Martin and Kasturi. Real privilege to meet you guys over here. Uh, we actually joined the sustainability incubation, the cohort one, somewhere last year in August, and the journey has been quite fabulous. In fact, as a startup, there are few things that we all want, and especially coming from sustainability kind of a mindset, one thing extra which adds or which is required for us is around understanding how we are making the impact. And when we say that making the impact, it is a measurable tool how we are making the impact. So in the over the period of almost around 8 months of sustainability cohort one, we got fabulous support from NSRCEL and few people in particular out there who actually not only guided us in making the connects or along with the industry partners, the mentors, but also have been a door opener for various things which a startup require. So over the period of last 8 months, we got connected to, I think, more than 20, 25 people. And some of them I'm still in touch with. They keep guiding us. And the mentorships come not only from a common belief of startups around funding, it also comes from various things like, especially in the hardware business, what we need is how do we ensure the supply chain management, how do we ensure about the vendor engagement, etc. Along with it, when you are essentially in a B2C brand, how do you ensure that you are marketing not out of overall budget, that there is nothing left for the business per se, but ensuring that you market it right. So we got support on all those grounds from NSRCEL. The grant which came to us was an added advantage, was the icing on the cake, because we all really look forward for the money. And the lastly, I would say, is one very interesting thing which NSRCEL helped us to do in cohort one was also to identify measurable matrices on which we can actually measure how we are making an impact on the ESG matrices, which has been defined under the SDG from United Nations. So that's very important to understand. That's my learning from NSRCEL's cohort one. And I would highly encourage all the participants, if they want to be a part of this fabulous journey, they should definitely apply for that. With this, without talking too much further on this, I would take this opportunity and start the topic for discussion today, which is essentially on how sustainability, the electric vehicles and what are the changing paradigm, what is happening over here, and how do two very, experienced panelists see this. So first thing I would like to start with over here is we all see that there is a huge transition which is going towards EV. But at the same time, there is a various thoughts in one's mind that whether the transition to EV is sustainable. So I would encourage or I would request both the panelists to talk about it. How do they think electric vehicle is a sustainable mode of mobility, given the perspective of total cost of ownership, which is quite changing from a perspective of government subsidies, which is quite uncertain at this point of time. At the same time, there is a lot of concern about reliability of the vehicles, because we have seen petrol vehicle come to the curve over 100 years, and we are trying that to be replaced over the next 10 years by electric vehicles. So reliability, total cost of ownership, and lastly, charging infrastructure. And charging infrastructure, when I state, it comes from two perspectives. One is the charging point per se itself, whether it's through battery swapping or charging infra, and the grid capability to support on those charging points as it is required for the mass transition towards EV. So given the 3 points, the TCO, reliability, and charging, I would request, Martin, if you can go first and share your views, how you see the EV transition is sustainable, and thereby, if Kasturi, you can add on to those points.
Hi, Ashish. Thanks once again, and thanks to NSRCEL team for inviting me on this panel. It's a real pleasure. Been working with NSRCEL very, very closely for the last 1 year, and I'm very, very happy to say that you're one of the best partners NSRCEL has ever worked with. So thanks, NSRCEL team and Conan and others for inviting. And pleasure to be with Kasturi and Ashish on this topic, which is the hottest topic today. I don't think any newspaper goes without mentioning anything about EV today. Either it's a launch or it's a problem, it's a policy, you have it in the newspapers. So and I lovely to see a lot of about 60 plus people as participating in this program. So once again, I excited to be here. So coming back to Ashish's question, yes, this question is very much relevant, and everybody asks this question in doubt, in skepticism, in optimism. So let me take the first question as a sustainability point of view. Uh, uh, in the larger context, yes, I believe EV is sustainable, but maybe in the long term, in the long term, it is definitely going to be sustainable. A lot of innovations are happening in the battery space, at the grid space, in multiple levels of innovation happening. Hence, I believe it's sustainable. We should be fair to only compare EV, which is very nascent compared to the traditional automotive sector. So immediately asking everybody to bring in innovation at a press of a button and then claim it to be sustainable, are you sustainable today? And then comparing it over a 100-year-old sector is unfair. So from a technology and innovation that's happening at a rapid pace, I believe EV is going to be sustainable in the long term. Now, on a specific point of view about total cost of ownership, yes, in the long term, I still believe it's going to be profitable. If you do the math, we've done the math multiple times internally. We believe over long term, it is profitable. Short term, yes, I agree, it might be a little expensive. Now you have the battery-based policy that's come out last year, 2022, that the government is actually advocating the recycling, etc. So with these kind of policies coming into play, and the battery, which is going to be 60% of your total vehicle cost, I'm sure there are companies are forced to the producer pays principle is being put in. So with all these kind of policies coming in, I think there will be a lot of innovation which will happen at the policy level, at the OEM level, and then at the end of the day, it's going to help the consumers also. So I'm not worried from a sustainability question point of view. It is going to be sustainable. That's my strong belief. But we need to be patient. That's my only caveat there. What is the other question, Ashish? TCO, reliability, and then one more.
Charging, especially the grid, whether they will be able to support the mass transition.
Grid, I think we have to be extremely patient. I only add that again because with the kind of innovation, the kind of 60 people in this room, it only shows that everybody is very passionate about the sector. I believe it will take time, but as I said earlier, on the charging point, we've seen Tesla doing it marvelously. It's a large startup. If you want to call it, it's less than 10 or 15 years old, but they've done a pretty fantastic job on the charging point and fast charging, etc. And Ather has done it. An Indian company has done. They have probably one of the best fasting charge technologies in India. So compared to all of this, I think innovation is the key in this topic. Innovation, patience, and I believe is equal to sustainability.
Thanks, Martin. Kasturi, any views from your end on this?
Thanks, Ashish and Martin. Lovely to be with you today on this panel. And I can only echo what Martin said. It's amazing to be here with NSRCEL. I'm an alum of the institution. I just feel proud that we have the second cohort on this topic right now through NSRCEL. So it's amazing. And to your point, Martin, I think you said it very well when you said it's not fair to compare the innovation and sustainability in EVs, which is probably only not more than a decade old in terms of the momentum we are seeing with a 100-year-old ICE vehicle industry, right? And at the same time, we have the challenge of doing it a lot faster. So the expectation is probably also stemming from what we really need to do. We probably don't have the kind of time we had with ICE. But to that point, I think overall, absolutely, I do see EVs as a sustainable solution. If anything, it's probably a front runner in terms of transportation decarbonization. So from that point of view, absolutely fair for us to put our lifetime of work and energy around it. And all the aspects that you mentioned, Ashish, so total cost of ownership, the reliability of it, and even the charging infrastructure side, and we should put policy in there, the grid, everything in there. It's almost a plate with all the things that we need to solve for, right? And they are all connected. So from that point of view, it's not just what we need to solve for EVs, but through the grid, all that we need to solve for energy as an ecosystem. What do we need from the backup infrastructure point of view? And like we are seeing innovation on the electrification of the vehicles, it's also about the software side of it, right? I can't even count the number of times we these days talk about EVs and the digital experience of the vehicles in the same breath. So all of that is making it complicated. I think TCO point of view, actually, the more we run it, the more sustainable, at least in the short term, right? So we do see even TCOs breaking even EVs doing a bit better with very high utilization use cases in fleet customers that we work with. So that's already happening. And that's happening partly because subsidies are there today. And they are in some markets also phasing out. So we need to live with that reality that it's only to boost the demand at the beginning. So from that point of view, yes, for the customer, it's sustainable. From a charging infrastructure point of view, that is the day job here for me. So absolutely, we can't not have it. We have to solve for the grid, but solutions like battery swapping, which don't necessarily load the grid at the same time as the peak, right? Or even battery energy storage solutions, which help us create a corpus of energy to charge later, right? All of those solutions are coming up as innovations, as scalable ones. And that's why I think the infrastructure side is also absolutely looking good in terms of what we can solve for. It's a path. It will take some years, not months, to solve. But yes, to your point, it's sustainable, and it's worthwhile putting our energy behind it.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Kasturi. Just a follow up on that. I'm sure a lot of participants would like to understand. Let's talk about two-wheelers in particular, because that is the mass adoption that we are looking. The cars are still gonna take a little longer than the two-wheelers, what we are seeing. It's interesting that we do not see any of the incumbent player actually putting all their might behind the electrification. Like, come to think about it, Bajaj Auto sitting with a cash of more than 20,000 crores, yet is not doing the same way which all the startups are doing at a much lesser one. You think about Hero, they have just launched a Vida. You think about Honda, they are still to launch. So except for the TVS, none of the incumbent players are doing. But if you come to think about a large new startups, possibly they all want to gain a market share out there, where there are more than 118 at least EV startups that I know of personally, who are there in that space. So if just out of curiosity, if it is looking like a long-term play and sustainable, then what, in your view, could be the reason why the 3 out of 4 incumbents are not jumping into the fray as aggressively what they should have been or what they can, given that they know the ecosystem, they have the money, they have every reach, but they are not doing it? Any thoughts on that?
I can bring a bit of Shell perspective also here. I think we get asked very similar questions, right? You're traditionally an oil and gas company. Why don't you completely convert to renewables the next day? And the hand-to-heart answer here has two aspects. One is purely commercial. See, when it's the same problem. So um, if we are investing in oil and gas, making money there, and we are wanting to scale renewables, or you're investing in ICE vehicles and wanting to make money out of EVs, they are fundamentally different economics right now. That's the reality, right? And when investors put their money, they buy their shares in the companies, in the traditional companies, they are not differentiating. They are expecting a certain return or a dividend, whatever they are after. So from a portfolio point of view, it's not an obvious, easy thing to maneuver in terms of how much money you put where and how do you still manage the overall returns expectations from the investors, right? And there's always an argument that as a shareholder, now I'm speaking as a shareholder, I could invest in, let's say, one of the EV companies, public EV companies, to buy their share and expect a certain return, and put a different dollar into a Bajaj or a traditionalized company for their kind of return. So I, as an investor, have that choice. So from that point of view, the investment angle and the justifiability of different types of businesses inherently is something that traditional companies have to solve for. And the second one, which should be more intuitive, is I think the risk appetite is different, right? The agility, the risk appetite of startups with a particular mission is absolutely different from what we see in a traditional company. The reality is it takes a lot more to maneuver and pick up new items, like you're going to put your mind behind it. So it does take longer, and that's why this collaboration is super important for the ecosystem. So you need to have both the type of companies working together. You'll see the Bajaj investing in Ulus, and the same way, right? Honda's investing in Ola. So all those kind of things happen because we are mixing different risk capital. Martin, your thoughts?
I think I would not agree that they are not doing it. I think they've, just because of the knowledge that they have, wisdom that they have, they're doing their business as usual. And if you see yesterday, the day before yesterday's news, Ather has got double their funding from Hero MotoCorp. So it's not that they're not in the EV business, they don't believe in EV. No, they strongly believe, hence they double their investments in, or they've added up on Ather. Bajaj has a strategic investment in Yulu, and they're also doing the contract manufacturing for Yulu. So, and I know for sure there are foreign two-wheeler companies who are coming to India very soon. So it's just probably about the timing, the maturity on how they approach the market, understanding the partnerships. Half of the startups sometimes is mostly noise, but where the others, they don't need to make noise, because the startups have to make noise because they have to reach out to the investors, whereas the traditional company don't have to do noise because they just have to do as business as usual, get it right first time. Whereas startups do an MVP, they have to go to the investor, they have a whole lot of list which NSRCEL always gives. I mean, just kidding, but that's how a startup works, right? But for a large company, established distribution model, etc., it's business as usual. You'll see next year at least 2 foreign two-wheelers coming into the India. If not earlier than next year, maybe later this year, you'll see the announcements, because I know for sure they've told me them. And then, like I said, Hero MotoCorp, TVS is already done. Even looking at global, they went and did their launch. One of their launch was in the Dubai. So that clearly shows they have some international appetite also. So I strongly disagree that they are not in the EV space.
No, thanks, Martin, for your views on that. Yes, I do agree. It's a debatable point because, but however, I take your point on that, that they are coming and they are actually doing it silently. And hopefully the current top 30 players, what we get to see in the EV industry, may topple over or get changed as things progress, as what you are rightly stating. That's a fair point. The second thing, which always moving on to another point where, there is always a debate about lithium ion. And, there are various people, like, for example, Reliance investing like hundreds of crores when it comes to sodium ion. They investing so much on hydrogen. People are always stating whether, lithium has become a geopolitical risk, or is it a financial or commercial risk. It's anybody's guess. But the point is that there are two schools of thoughts which are clearly emerging. One school of thought stating that we need an alternate to lithium ion because lithium ion is a limited resource, and how the cost will reduce because lithium, the entire mining is limited. On the other hand, there is a huge investments which is going into lithium ion, and thereby there is a kind of a lobby which is being created. And anybody who's invested heavily in lithium ion will try to ensure that there is less risk, technology risk or obsolescence risk, which remains on lithium ion. So there are two forces which are on play, one in support of lithium ion, one against a lithium ion when it comes to electric vehicle as a sustainable. Any thoughts, Martin, you have, and Kasturi, you have on that? That do you think which way the market, in your view, should go forward? in support of lithium or in support of other technologies in 5 to 7 years from now?
If you hadn't said that 5 to 7 years, the last statement, my answer would have been a different opening remark. But anyway, so 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 I was coming to the point where I was saying, from short to medium, I think lithium is the only option that we have. But having said that, I believe lithium, there will be alternative technologies, and all of them will coexist. And I still believe lead acid will not die very soon. So lead acid has also been there for so many years. Everybody said it'll die, but it still lived on. And I still believe lead acid will continue for in multiple applications. Whether it's mobility, it's a different topic, but it will have some more life. Lithium, sodium, all of them will have a lot of opportunity. And the kind of innovation that's happening, like how we have diesel, we have CNG, we have petrol, all vehicles, all of them have an application. In today's times, I believe there will be similar application-based coexisting technologies along with lithium. Just like how we have in the current scenario, in a different format, we will have it, is what I believe.
I tend to agree. I think it's a matter of demand and supply, right? And the ones which have the markets which have rich resources of lithium available at a low cost, they will absolutely tap on that, and it will exist and run its life there. And the others that don't will absolutely push for more alternatives like sodium and LFPs and all different kinds, solid state even, right? So from that point of view, all these technologies will coexist for different applications for sure, but also in terms of their presence and intensity in different markets. And to your point on geopolitics, I think it was bound to happen every time there is a reset in a value chain, right? And EV is one such opportunity. So everything is almost up for grabs across the value chain, and so is the supply chain. And it was bound to happen. So it should follow the course of demand and supply. I don't think lithium is going anywhere anytime soon. So we should have it. We should see it.
Perfect. Thanks. I think that was a good way to, I really liked Martin, what and Kasturi, what you talked about.
Ashish, just to pivot, what is your view on this? Because you're an entrepreneur in this battle. Where do you believe? You are, hands-on, dirtying yourself in lithium. So let me know what your views are.
Uh, Interestingly, I started my first company very similar to what Kasturi is into energy transition around EV grid solution in United Kingdom, and worked for more than 200 megawatts around there because there was a huge challenge. So I have a slightly different take on that. Uh, but I think I agree with you, Martin, on this point per se, that there will be a different use case for different technology. I clearly feel that the heavy vehicles will go the hydrogen way, very clearly. That's my view. Uh, you may have a situation where the commercial the passenger vehicles, including two-wheelers, have to choose in between the lithium and sodium. But I clearly see that way. And if you see major news around the market, especially way back in 17, Scotland started the hydrogen bus trials, though they are stagnant right now because there are no hydrogen pumps now anymore functional there last year. But they started that. Japan is moving on that. Reliance is doing work with Ashoka Leyland to launch hydrogen buses here. So I frankly agree with you, Martin, completely that there will be different use cases for different scenarios on that. Interesting to see how vanadium will play, but that's gonna see.
Actually, in fact, yesterday I was in a conference and I happened to meet somebody very senior at a German. I don't want to name, but I'll try as much as possible to say hint at the name of the company. It's a German company. He's a leading R&D person. So I was talking to him about the hydrogen space. Where does he stay on what does he believe on application? Whether it's intercity, where the buses would hydrogen. That's what I was thinking. Intercity, like you said, probably hydrogen. Within the city, probably, EV will have more applications. But he actually had a counterpoint. He's like, hydrogen, he still doesn't believe too much. He's like, the production of hydrogen and the putting it all together, the weight, all of that, he said, we'll have to wait and watch. But he still says battery has, for long distance trucks and buses, he thinks EV is still way to go. and not maybe on. He's still very skeptical on, because Toyota has come up with flex fuel and all of that. So I was asking him, because he's a competitor, I asked him, he said he still doesn't believe 100%. So the world is out there on debating on which will work where. So
No, very well said. It's very open point which one can think about. But moving on, unless Kasturi, you have any point to add, or should we?
So if you're talking hydrogen, then I'll give you my own experience with building battery swapping, right? So the usual suspects, you would think you're building battery swapping, two, three-wheelers are the obvious use case, and we went after it and did not imagine heavy trucks, class 8 trucks, actually to even be a potential interest or customer for this. And earlier in my time at Shell, I had the opportunity to do hydrogen strategy for Shell. So I'd spoken on the hydrogen side, pitched like Ashish was saying, heavy duty vehicles are completely hydrogen, the efficiency makes sense, the infrastructure makes sense, right? And to my surprise, there are pockets in the world where they are looking for battery solutions, like you heard, Martin. And for reasons which are a lot more practical, right? So they don't have hydrogen infrastructure there today, but they don't see it happening in the next 10 years either. And they've got these zero emission targets from the government already. So how do you do it? You have to go for an electric truck, right? And then there is the problem of charging. So can they afford to have fast charging? Time enough even for fast charging, is it available? So it opens up the whole solution space for EVs. But I think, like most things, it's also about infrastructure and distribution on top of the technology fit that we're talking
Absolutely well said, Kasturi, and absolutely well said, Marchan. I think only time can suggest how the things will move into the particular, sphere. But yes, there are three technologies which are largely in play right now, whether it's sodium, whether it's lithium, or whether it's hydrogen. And it'll be interesting to see how they are doing it. Uh, Moving forward, I would also, in the benefit of most of the participants here, one thing which is always there, and I also struggled for 2 years, is if my tech is too innovative to be showcased to a recognized or established player, because the way they can actually imitate or copy it, I'm not saying they will, but it's just a risk. Because except the innovation which you have done or which you think is the best in the market, which is close to your heart, and you're putting your 3 to 5 years of your career in you are very close to it. So at that point of time, it's always a challenge or dichotomy in the mind of most of the entrepreneurs or innovators here, is whether they should collaborate with the recognized players early on, or whether they should wait, gain enough market traction, keep struggle for funding, keep struggle for mentorship support, and yet take it once the system is far more stable. So the point is, everybody wants to cooperate with the recognized player sometime or the later. The timing is very uncertain in the mind of young entrepreneurs or innovators in the things. Any view that you have on these two sides, because a lot of the people who will be listening to this may be contemplating on the same point.
So this one, I can say I have the other year on this. So my husband's got his startup in healthcare, and we keep talking about this on our dinner table as well. But so I know the question is very real. But I think, of course, there's no right answer to it, right? It's very specific to the stage the startup is in and what which conglomerate or which established player you're talking about. So fundamentally, there is some sense of trust that you can have both ways that is required even to go that way. Um, and it comes down a lot of time to people on top of the brands that startups collaborate with. So there's one aspect of that. But the other bit is, I think now more than before, there is enough protection also. I don't think conglomerates can, or the bigger companies can actually get away so easily by doing something like that. So there's a little bit more space, I think, for the collaboration to happen. But most practically, it comes down to at what point do you need access to what. If you need the scale, if you need the access in terms of the reach to customers or the brands, or to be able to test and the market entries as a startup, then it is a very real trade-off, right? And it sometimes is worth it, because then it really takes your solution to a lot more meaningful scale than you would be able to in the same amount of time. So it is about the amount of impact you're able to create. So from that point of view, I think it's a bit about timing, a lot about trust and people working together. But there is absolutely space for doing that, and I'm hoping enough accountability now in the system to be able to do that.
Martin, your views?
Yeah. For me, it depends. I think largely first it depends on your product and your technology and your application. Depending on this, you have to choose whether you need to collaborate with a large company or you can take them head on. It depends on the disruption that you're bringing in. Now, most often than not, I'll just give you an example. For me, it helped when I was an entrepreneur. When I was outside the country. I was in Taiwan for some time. I had my own startup in the IoT space. It's a new technology, LoRa technology. That time IoT was very hot. Everybody was talking about LoRa technology. IBM was advocating it as a young entrepreneur, a lot of passion. I jumped onto it. I wanted to bridge the Taiwan hardware with the Indian software. 2.5 years I was on it. We've actually made a lot of these sensors on LoRa technology. And I got excited when Tata announced they are going to advocate LoRa technology in India, and Tata Teleservices rolled out a few stuff in Bangalore and a couple of places. I was able to then reach out to Tata guys, give about 6 or 7 products on LoRa technology to them, because for them it was difficult part was to get these different applications. And I gave it to them, which was even shown at the Founders Day. I was so happy Mr. Tata has seen. I couldn't show it, but at least they showed it and they showed me the photos. My point is, I was coming to was I was banking on Tata Technology to take it to the market, because they have different Tata companies. They have, even if they put in one of their own buildings, I would have made my money. But having said that, they couldn't do it. Now they're using LoRa in some other applications, but the way that the whole market was talking about the technology, and the way I got excited and we built, we expected them to do it, and then we run on them, but they couldn't do it. So for me, when I realized that I was able to evaluate my product, my business, and the technology, and immediately I could pivot. So there's a plus and a minus. If they cannot do it, I cannot do it. I'm like shutting shop. I should not say my idea, my baby, I will live and die with it. No, you have to pivot. Entrepreneur, you have to pivot. So for me, it was help. So that way, collaboration early stage does help. But in coming back to the EV point, I think you might have to work with large OEMs. I think otherwise, again, it depends on application and the product and the disruption that you bring in.
So very well said, Martin. First of all, congrats on that. We are currently to use.
Shutting shop. Thank you. I'll take it.
But just sharing from my personal experience, we did reach out to one of the large OEM, and they also invested in our company. And by virtue of which, we also are extending our reach to various, with our tech. Not only we are using in terms of dual powertrain, but we are also selling a lot of components to the various EV OEMs today. And that is all coming more as a collaborative rather than a competition. So I would encourage most of our colleagues here who are on the call that don't be scared of this thing. If you have faith in your own technology, take the leap. Because the faster you take, the easier or better it will be. Because no technology can give you just the, I would so-called say, the technology advantage for a long time. At some point of time, the technology has to be shifted to execution and market. The more you delay, the obsolescence risks are higher. So it needs to be promoted. So very well said. Thank you guys on that.
One last point is, you said large company startup, but I know a case, for example, 2 startups sharing their charging infra, so that they can maximize it. So startups themselves also can share. I know, for example, Magenta and Moving actually share their. I'm quoting their names. I don't know if these guys are there on this thing. but I'm taking the liberty as a, acknowledging the, trust that they have and the camaraderie they show in the space. They're charging infra points, the free time. They are ready to give it to the competitors. Only then you can maximize your investment, real estate cost, and all of that stuff. So please go ahead and I always advocate collaboration and co-creation.
No, we have also seen that, Martin, very well stated. In a lot of the players where people are looking to work on this kind of things, since we have all our batteries, etc., approved for the dual powertrain. So somebody who comes new, we are happy to share the technology and be a vendor to them if they can take it to the market faster. So it's always collaborative on that side. So very well stated on that. I would request, since we have 15 minutes more, I would request the attendees to pose their questions if they have any. We have a bunch of questions. If both our panelists are okay, I would like to take one by one so that we can address some of the points which are there to these to the attendees. So, Martin, one question is that for you. For a larger national impact perspective, collaboration may be easier to scale and make faster impact. Do you see government taking initiatives to foster a more collaborative environment for sustainability space?
Okay, I cannot speak for the government, but from the little that I know, I've interacted with a few people. At least the intention is there. I was recently with the Department of Transport in Karnataka. They believe it's only through collaboration that any new initiatives can come through. So, for example, they are introducing, employee commuter programs, and they want corporates to come in. They are open for pilots. They even actually fund pilots. So they have programs, under Startup Karnataka program, they have budgets which they even fund pilots to. So I believe the intent is there, but you need that skill to get it from them. I think that's the key point. But the intent is there. At least that's what I can say. But I can't speak anything more from that from a government.
If I can just take a bit on that point. So Startup India does come up with various programs by virtue of which is funded by the various mentors. And let's say, for example, this program itself, it's actually you get to interact with the Alstom team. The point is, if your technology you have a confidence on, in that 5-minute pitch when you talk, you can make an impact to have a collaborative approach even with Alstom, if you can. So there are various stages which are available to give the opportunity to the startups, and it is up to the startup whether they want to encash from that or not. So Startup India programs, a lot of incubators programs, including the one which we are currently the session is going on, that is one such example. So you can take example of that. Coming to another query, sorry, Kasturi, you have any view on that?
No, I think you guys covered it.
Another query is there. Indian market is flooded with two-wheelers and three-wheelers. What are the market dynamics shaping this industry? Is there any global quality standard followed in EVs, like the APQP process for the automotive industry? Kasturi, would you like to take this or pass? Because I know Martin with Missilio would be definitely eager to take this one up.
Sure. So maybe I can give you a small flavor of battery swapping in 2-3-wheelers. That for sure, as I'm sure a lot of people in the audience would also know, is in a very shaping and forming space. So we don't have a standard policy in most markets. India also, we had a draft policy. We are working through that. So that's happening. So from that point of view, there are standards that we need, not just from a manufacturing testing of the vehicles point of view, battery integration point of view, but also from the infrastructure point of view. So there's a lot that is unsolved for there. And it's important to do that for level playing field, like we always say, but also from a safety point of view, because the good and bad of EVs is it's a simpler machine in many ways. So there's a possibility for us to pretty much assemble it as a kit and do it properly, like a well-tested machine. So from that point of view, there's a lot unsolved. Martin?
Yeah, so from a market dynamics point of view, yes, two-wheeler and three-wheeler industry should see a lot more traction because the logistics space is where the maximum demand is. I know for sure some of the e-commerce companies are working on EV100 programs, 100% utilizations. They are anticipating the prices to increase after the elections. Hence, they're anticipating from a larger two-wheelers and three-wheelers to come into play, commercial as well as passenger level. So that is one. But from a standards point of view, I was in ARA recently, and I know they've been saying that they are under pressure to come up with policies. One of the policies which I heard they need to work on, EVs don't have noise, but you need to introduce noise. So that's another policy which they're working on. On battery, I think we have AIS has already come out. I don't see any more changes coming there. But there are small nuts and bolts to be fixed to this. So it's a evolving policy framework that's happening according to Indian conditions also. So I know the government is actually working on it. There is different people, different teams, different committees on this, like battery, which Kasturi mentioned. So it's evolving. We can't say it's done deal already.
No, good. Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Kasturi. I hope this question was answered. Just sharing also that I think the Indian standard and the guidelines which are there are in line with very, very global standards, and that's why even in area you can get your vehicle certified for European standards. There is only a few tests which are required. So yes, there is a challenge on the low speed vehicles which are not tested, but I'm sure government is working on that. Moving on, the second question is that which is close to our business as well, but I'll leave both the panelists to answer it. Can retrofitters who convert the traditional car into electric vehicles change the whole industry faster? Is due to higher cost difference between cost of EV and traditional, petrol vehicles. Well, any thought, Martin, you have on that?
And Ashish, actually, I think you should answer it. Let them hear it on the horse's mouth.
I think in the car segment, personally, there is a company which is working, and we are working with that company in helping their solution as well. And their solution is due as per AIS 123 to be certification to be done now. Our personal view is that there is a huge amount of vehicles which are currently there, and they also need a solution in a resource constrained country such as India, and extending it to other countries such as Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. Resources are constrained, and these vehicles which are already there on the vehicle cannot go into, or the vehicles which are on the road cannot be scrapped. So there need to be a solution around that. So there is a market. How finite, how that market will behave over a period of next 10 years, anybody's guess. But the challenge in this market is most of the people, especially investors, are married to the situation that EVs are future. So the friend who's trying to think about it, please be very clear that funding, if you are looking to raise, going to be a little challenge, because somebody has to buy that vision that petrol vehicles are here to stay. Apart from that, at least for me, the point is very well taken, because these vehicles need a solution. I cannot comment whether it's for the faster or not, but they definitely need a solution.
No, it is a solution. I agree, because I saw a Scorpio being retrofitted, completely ready for commercialization just 2 weeks back. The only challenge there was they used components from UK, hence the cost was a little high. But if they can get it, from a local level, I think it'll be a little more cheaper and maybe a market potential. So it is doable, no doubt about it. I think there is a market for it.
So there is a company called Tadpole, which is doing it for army jeeps and forest rangers. Our solution is already certified by RAI under AIS 123, especially for independent hybrid. So we do convert, retrofit a vehicle into independent hybrid, which is petrol and electric vehicle, both coexist on the vehicle, and rider has the ability to ride the vehicle as per their convenience, charge available, etc. So there is no anxiety, whether it's a technology, reliability, charging, etc. So that's our solution, which is already certified and in Bangalore today. But yes, and to this person, if they want further to know about retrofitment, please do connect with me. Whatever little I know, I will be happy to share. Kasturi, any view you have on retrofitment, given your
Covered it, but very similar experiences as you've had. I think there is a space for retrofitting because people don't have solutions. The OEMs don't have enough vehicles that are in the same price range on road, and they need to convert now. So retrofitting comes in very handy, and it's across segments. It's across segments, and the trucks that I was talking about on battery swap, they are actually the first ones are retrofitted diesel trucks because there's nothing available right now in that market. So from that point of view, absolutely. I do confirm to the view that you said maybe some investors do. I think they'll all electrify or convert at some point, and it's an intermediate market segment. But that's just my view. Anybody's guess.
Absolutely. Moving on, just one thing, one of the point, Kasturi, what you had mentioned earlier, and somebody, Asha has a view on that. It's like, while yes, there are different kind of shareholders and their expectations of the return is very different. But however, given the impact which is happening all around on ESG and carbon neutrality, the kind of multiple which we see in the market, if a traditional petrol vehicle is trading at 18 to 26 PA, EV will be trading at 80 to 100. So in that perspective, I mean, what stops the traditional companies to actually have a portfolio on the EV and enhance the shareholder returns as well? Sorry, the question was a little different, but this is my understanding of the question, and hence I stated that. Asha, hope I have done a justice to your question.
So glad. Thanks, Asha, for bringing this up. I think glad you brought this point up. It's not stopping, right? So it's not stopping companies from putting their money into this. It's in comparison in the portfolio, right? It's between all out 100% switch versus a transition that we call it as, right? And from a multiples point of view, it's a very different thing. Although on face of it, you see, yes, an EV company getting very high multiples, a hydrogen FCV company getting very high multiples on the market versus an oil and gas company, for example, or a traditional ICE company. But if you look under the hood, the market doesn't appreciate or rather reward an ICE company to the same extent for an EV investment. So that's where the shareholder preferences come in. There are certain section of shareholders that are rewarding the EV companies, but they're likely different set of shareholders, or even if they are the same ones, they are not rewarding an ICE company to the same extent. So we do see that in every related industry in terms of the traditional fuels versus the new fuels, EVs versus ICE. So there is that market piece that needs to catch up. But from that point of view, absolutely. I mean, it's not stopping the companies from doing it, but it is a different fundamental in terms of business, right? We are talking about similar returns in 10 to 12 years from an EV versus what is here and now from an ICE. So that transition needs to happen.
Thanks, Kasturi. Very quick one from Martin Yu and Kasturi Yu. The one thing which might be in mind of various our friends here. Any view on the business opportunities which are around battery recycling? If you have to take you have to invest your own money, how do you see that business shaping up?
Please.
Okay, so battery recycling, yes, there's a lot of buzz around it lately. There's a lot of opportunities there. And with the new battery waste policy that's come out last year, I think it's only getting better. There's a lot more clarity. The second life, the circular economy market will kick in with so many bikes already on the road. Now all these batteries needs to be recycled in less than another probably 3 to 4 years. So the second life opportunities for, I'm looking at new entrepreneurs, new businesses coming for the circular economy, the second life options. From a recycling point of view, with the kind of technologies which I hear that's coming out, I understand there are processes today that when you recycle, about 95% of the nickel, cobalt, etc., can be got back from the battery. Now, this, if again it's reused, I think it's the sustainability story is only going to be faster and better. So right now we have bent upon the mining, which is not very nice to story on the mining side. But as we go across, if you're going to get 95% from the used batteries, the raw materials, I think it's going to be sustainable. So that entire industry is just yet to kick off. So if there are youngsters who are wanting to get into the space, I think it's exciting times for you guys.
Maybe to add to that, the recycling bit, I don't have much more to add to what Martin said, completely resonates. I think there's also space and opportunity on the transition from first life to second life, or to recycling for that matter. Right now, there's very little intelligence in terms of what is the right time to cross over. How do you assess the value of the batteries in their second life or when they're recycled? And it is something that's very valuable because that helps the economics on both sides. It creates transparency in the ecosystem. So those few bits around the transition between first and second life, I think those are big opportunities that don't have a solution, good one at least right now.
Perfect. Thanks, Kasturi. Thanks, Martin. Just the last question from you, from my side, for both of you. If you were a betting man and betting woman, let's say if you have to put a number by 2030, what is the transition you see as an EV percentage? No rationale, no logic, nothing. Just as a betting person, what would be that percentage?
2030, you said, right?
2030.
Okay, I'll caveat this by saying I'm a bit of a hopeless optimist here. So I'm hoping upwards of 75% for 2-3 wheelers, right? And at least 35 to 40% for 4 wheelers for India.
Martin?
As an economist, Kasturi speaking, I'm not an economist, so I'm very bad at math. So the wrong question to ask. No, and I wouldn't want to put a number because it all depends on innovation. Which would, if I put a number, then I'll be undermining the innovators in this room. Second, it all depends on the next year's elections also. So I'm
That's a real
I'm excusing myself.
That was a very nice way of actually getting away from that question. But it was a lovely speaking to both you guys. It was a pleasure connecting with you, and I hope that all the attendees on the webinar today got some insight from the discussion to help understand how they are working and how the two celebrated panelists out here sees the market going forward. Thank you so much, Kasturi. Thank you so much, Martin, for your time here. Kunain, if you would like to take it forward from me.
Kunain, before you jump in, thanks Ashish and Kasturi. Great talking to all of you. Before I hand it over, Kunain, I just want to if all of you guys would love to know more, interact more with the EV clean mobility ecosystem, Micelio is organizing its second edition of the Micelio Clean Global Summit thanks, Kunain. Wonderful. Okay, NSRCEL is our partners. So please join in. And please contact Conan for a discount code that will be shared with you. So don't worry, don't look at the website and get scared. You have a discount coupon coming your way. Join in. We'll interact with more ecosystem players, policymakers, everybody there. See you all there in person. Thanks, Conan.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ashish and Martin. I had to just ask you to talk about the Global Clean Mobility Summit that's happening in November. That was why I was pitching in. But great conversation. Thank you so much, Kasturi. Thank you for joining us in. I guess you're joining in from Singapore for this webinar. Thank you so much even for that. It was a great conversation. We look forward to have more such webinars and more such collaborations with each one of you here. So yes. Also, just a heads up to all the attendees. Again, our applications for sustainability incubation program are open. The details for that are in the chat box. do go to the website. More information is available there, and you guys can reach out to anyone from NSRCEL team regarding any information about NSRCEL or the programs that we do. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Ashish, Martin, and the NSRCEL team.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care, guys.